Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com, and in this video, I want to talk about how companies avoid paying taxes and why it's impossible to stop. And I'm not going to be talking in theory at all here. I'm going to show you some real-life information that has just come out recently as of the time of this video. And it's not that this particular company or this particular bit of information is relevant in the sense of, that being the main focal talking point. I just want to introduce some real-world dynamics into this so you can see exactly how this all works. But to set up the context here of, how companies avoid paying taxes, let's just actually think about at the core, what's going on? What is a company? And a company is, again, at its core, I get it. I can say company. You can think of Apple or Google and, Amazon, these massive organizations. And those are companies. But even if you were to boil that all down, to the foundation, all a company is something like this. You have a person, and this person wants to go out there and they want to make some money, right? This is nothing complicated. They want to make some money. But the question becomes, okay, well, what is going on between these two, the person right here and then actually making money? Well, you need to have a product. You need to have a service that needs to be sold. So this person is going to have some sort of product, right? Now, what does it take to make that product? Well, to take that product, you might need some material, right? So MAT, materials to actually build it. You might need, for example, a factory, and factories have, property taxes. So you might have to pay some property taxes on that building. You might have to pay rent on that building. You might have to pay labor, right? You might have to pay somebody, say, hey, can I purchase some of your time so you can come and make whatever that actually is, whatever the product is. And, there's other things, but you get the idea, right? There are, in other words, costs that go into making whatever the product or service actually is. And for this sake, and I'm just completely making this up, let's say that this cost ultimately came out to being $10. So it costs $10 to create whatever that product actually is. But remember the end goal is to make money. So if you were doing a company, if you were running a company, had a product or service, what would you want to do? Well, you would want to have a price, right? And what sort of price would this be based on? Would you want to price this when you try to sell it for $8? Hopefully you're saying, well, wait, Clay, I'm not a mathematical genius, but you just told us that it cost $10. So if something cost me $10 to make, why would I sell it for $8? I'm going to be losing money on the transaction. You're absolutely right. Correct. And again, nothing, like I said, I'm not trying to proclaim that there's anything complicated going on here at all. Just wanted to, set up the baseline premise here of what we'll be working from. So yeah, right there's going to be some sort of price, and this price is going to be correlated with the $10. So as a good business person, let's just say, I want to make $5, right? I want to make $5 per. So, okay, let's charge $15. And the math here, again, not trying to insult your intelligence, just, keep it simple. But if you want to, how much money is actually going to be made? Well, you're going to want to take the price that's being charged, subtract out your cost, and then that would leave you with $5, which is what ultimately goes up there. So that's just the backbone of any sort of company. Somebody wants to make money. In order to make money, you have to have a product or service. There's going to be cost that goes into that. And then, of course, you want to be able to, have a price that's higher than your cost so that you ultimately make money. So one dynamic here and one thing that, and the core thing that keeps companies and how they avoid paying taxes is this column right over here, is the price, right? Because they get to choose the price. So at any point, they can lower prices, they can raise prices, they can do whatever needs to be done in order to what? In order to, make sure that column exists, right? You don't want to have a negative in that column, meaning you would be losing money. So let's bring out, because I get it right now, we're in front of the chalkboard, we're talking in theory, but let's look at this recent headline here from Chipotle. And again, I'm not throwing Chipotle under the bus, it just happens to illustrate exactly what's going on here. So Chipotle earnings crush estimates, meaning they did even better than what the professionals thought they would do. In stock market lingo, the analyst, they crushed estimates because the analyst, they'll throw out there, well, I think Chipotle will make this, and another analyst will say, yeah, I think they'll make this. So there's some sort of guess, there's some sort of baseline that exists, and they crushed what all those analysts were estimating. Because why? Well, their sales jumped 22%. But did you read the headline ahead? What else did they do to kind of maneuver around and keep, what did they do to crush the earnings? What was part of that strategy? Higher menu prices. Now, why did they raise their prices? Well, because they wanted to offset rising costs. So think back to the chalkboard. You had all those costs, and something in there caused those costs to go up, right? So how did they offset that cost? Well, they just went and raised the prices. So just to, set up the context, let's just say rent went up. Well, okay, if rent went up, then we'll compensate for that by just raising the prices. So just trying to keep it very smooth. But there is another cost out there that exists, and the cost is taxes. But what do I mean by cost? Taxes, in what form is a tax? Well, I'm going to take this to the very extreme so you see, how in the shape that taxes is ultimately a cost. And I get, well, it's a cost because it takes money away. And that's true, but why does this cost need to be factored in is more so kind of what I'm pressing at here. So let's just go through a little bit of a story here. And again, I'm taking this to the extreme, but let's say we have, actually, it's going to be you. So here you are, and you want to make some money, right? So you want to make some money. Now, the underlying dynamic here is that there's, this kind of very nasty, very rough river that's flowing down below this arrow, which is serving as, kind of, we'll call it the bridge over here. And what is this water? What is this nasty river representing? Well, this nasty river is representing the risk. Because if you want to make money as an entrepreneur, as a business, or, what have you, well, you need to risk either your time, you need to risk your own money, because you have to, like I said, pay money for materials, pay maybe somebody else to build it. You have to pay a bunch of stuff to create that product, to create that service. But there's no guarantee that anybody's going to accept your price, right? Just because you throw out a price out there, you don't know if people are going to like your product. You don't know if maybe they like it, but they think it's too expensive. Maybe there's just a lot of variables out there that, making money actually quite hard because you have all this risk. But let's just say that you are able. So you get across the river, you make it, you risk your own money, and you actually make money. And then you have a tax over here, because taxes, they're only charged on the profits. Profits meaning the money that you actually make. But let's just say there's a tax, and the tax here is 100%. So the money that you make after risking your own money, then the government comes in and takes 100%. Again, this is completely extreme to illustrate the point. So would you partake in the business? Would you try to build a business? Would you try? I'm assuming, well, no, Clay, I would not, because why would I risk my own money if the end result is my profits being just gone because they're 100% taken away, right? That just wouldn't make any sense. In other words, why would you risk anything at all if you knew the end result was everything being taken away? Now, I get it. Everything's not taken away. But this is why I would argue that tax is the cost of risk, right? Because you have to look at it as, okay, if I'm going to take all this risk, what is my payoff going to be? Meaning, okay, wow, I turned a profit. I did something that's actually very hard to do. Oh, but I'm going to be charged that amount. So my prize at the end is going to be, in this case, 100% tax rate. Well, then I'm not even going to bother doing it. If after all this risk, all this hard work, I'm just going to lose all my money. So that is where the cost comes into play. A cost of risk is how I'm going to define all that. So let's look right here, and let's just say that a cost is going to be a tax, right? So in here, you're going to have some sort of tax, because that business person, that company is going to know that, okay, well, our costs just increased. Our cost of risk just increased by, 5%. I'm just going to make it. So the government rate says, we're going to charge 5% more, whatever. And now it gets more, what about this? I'm just saying it from a broad sense, because at the kind of macroscopic view, this is how it all works. But if a person knows that their cost of risk is, just increased by 5%, but if they still want to make, we'll just go with that $5 mark over there. If they still want to make $5, Well, they can go through, do some math, pull out the spreadsheet and figure out, well, if I still want to make that $5, if I want to, as Chipotle did, offset those costs. Now, in Chipotle's case, it wasn't necessarily increase in taxes. It was just, other dynamics. But the point here being is if one form of cost rises, but that company still wants to make that $5 for every, in Chipotle's case, for every burrito that they sell, if they want to make $5 on it, and they know that cost of a tax, cost of risk just increased, what can they do? They could go over and say, well, we're going to raise our price by 5%. Now, the thing becomes, right? And again, I know I keep repeating myself, but I want you to hammer home. I'm not trying to come across like you have to be an economist, you have to be a mathematician or anything like that to understand any of this. Very straightforward. So, okay, well, let's just raise your price by 5%. That way, all right, that's been eliminated and we're still getting our $5. But here's the crazy part is that, okay, well, I mean, who's gonna pay the 5% more? Well, the customer is, right? So in other words, it's just companies pass on the taxes. Who do they pass it on to? Well, they pass it on to their consumers, to me, to you. I love Chipotle, fantastic. Maybe you don't like it, but I don't know. I guess we can still be friends. That's a side point though. But they're gonna pass it on to consumers. So in other words, who is actually getting taxed here? Once again, it's not the company. They're avoiding it. They're still making that $5. But who is allowing them to make that $5? Well, the consumer up here, right? Me and you. The people are like, okay, well, I just noticed that, the burritos, increased in price a little bit. But yeah, they're good. I'm still going to buy them. Now, eventually, right, if that tax thing goes up too crazy, then prices will rise up too crazy, and then the company's just not going to be able to function anymore, and then everything falls apart. But that's not how it's going to work, right? I hope the government's not going to come in and be like, yeah, 90% tax rates. I mean, 90%, that would be crazy, right? So the idea here is that that's how the companies are avoiding paying taxes. They just pass on the tax to you via their price. If their cost of risk goes up, their price is going to go up. If costs of materials go up, which was probably the case here in that Chipotle article I showed you, well, as they've just publicly admit, I mean, and it's not like they're hiding this stuff. Like I said, they as a publicly traded company, they're admitting, yeah, we offset some of our stuff went up, and as far as material to build the burrito, that cost went up, but we offset that cost by increasing our menu prices. So it's not like this is some sort of hidden strategy. It's just good old fashioned basic math when you look at it like this. If you still want to make that $5 and some sort of cost goes up, well, then you got to raise the price. So at the core, in its simplest form, that is how the rich, that is how wealthy, that is how companies are avoiding paying taxes because, hey, if you like their product and you want their product and you need their product, well, then you know what? If a tax increase is going to happen, if any sort of increase is going to happen from a cost perspective, they'll just move that over to the price. And because you love their product, because you want their product, because you need their product, you're going to pay it. And they stay in the exact same spot. But you're actually the one that's paying the higher tax via higher prices. So that is a clever way that the government and institutions like to, they talk the big game, right? Tax the rich. But what they're not telling you is it's actually a tax on all their consumers. So, poor people, middle class, things like that. And like I said, Chipotle is literally flat out saying, yeah, our costs went up, but we just raised our menu. We just raised menu on our prices. And apparently people don't care because their sales still surge. What was that? 22%. Let me bring that up. Yeah. And sales jumped 22% with the rising, higher menu prices. But that is how it works. So hopefully this opens your mind when you hear about why aren't the wealthy paying taxes? They're never going to pay taxes, okay? They're never going to pay taxes because they can always just bake it in as you just saw right here. So if you enjoy these sorts of economic videos, I don't even know what to call these sorts, then please let me know in the comment section below, hit that like button. And if you do enjoy these sorts of situations and videos, then by all means, let me know. So thanks for hanging out and get out there. Now you can feel more educated on how these companies avoid paying taxes. First off, thanks so much for watching the entire video. Real quick, before you go, I want to invite you to a live webinar, web class, training, workshop, online event, whatever you want to call it, but it will be me live revealing to you what I've discovered that has allowed me to transform myself from being an employee to being my own boss, including how I had only one losing day out of 73 days in total. I'm going to cover 3 keys that have helped me
unlock profitable consistency within the markets. The first key is super weird, but in a productive type of way. The second key is super awesome because it quite literally is wired into our DNA as humans, making it very easy to use. But in a cruel way, this becomes a pitfall for many traders. I'll explain it all though, including how to avoid the pitfall that it creates for some. And yeah, the third key, when you hear it, sounds way too good to be true, but it's not, and I'll show you how it all works. Then at the end, I open it up for a question and answer session that is, again, totally live. Even if you can't make the live session, please still sign up as it will be recorded, and you can go back and watch the replay that I will send you. Click the image on the screen or click the link down in the description box so you can get the date and time and claim your spot, which I should note is limited due to the fact that this truly is a live event. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll be seeing you soon.